Welcome in to Rollin Illini. Ori Benatar is running into the studio right as we jump on air. He is here, host of Illini Drive on Mondays and Wednesdays. Of course, our friends who take over the studio on those days.
Definitely a familiar voice here on WPGU 107.1 for our listeners out there.
I hope so.
Am I, though? This is weird. I'm sitting on the other side. I'm not hosting. I'm like a guest.
This is my seat.
This is different.
I run this.
Sure you do.
Just wait until we start asking you questions. And we're
Oh,
interviewing you.
man. I always ask the questions. I know I have to answer
not
them.
today.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
We might even have some questions for Ryan, though.
yeah,
Who knows?
Ryan and Ori are in some different positions today.
Yeah, gross. So Will Gerard's here, James Boyd Ori, Jason Leggett, UPTV today. Man, James smiled the camera. He looks great. So today we have a full day of stuff. So we've got some news out of UConn, not the most enlightening news if you're a fan of the Paralympic movement like we are. UConn has decided to not adopt a wheelchair basketball program, and that is after an initiative by the Ryan Martin Foundation. Ryan Martin is a wheelchair basketball player in the area, and he was noticing there was a growing interest in wheelchair basketball by the students in chairs at UConn, and UConn said, sorry, we can't help you out. But they do have club teams.
They put on one Paralympic event per semester. That's what they do currently.
Okay. What Paralympic events?
I'm pretty sure it depends
Okay.
each year, but there are a couple different options, different routes that they go.
Okay, interesting. So Will had a chance to talk with Ryan Martin a couple days ago. We'll play that segment here in a minute. And then Ori Benatar has been my official stalker of the day, following me for, 2 hours now?
Yeah, like 2.
Okay, gosh, I'm sorry.
That's not too long.
Nah, but...
We had to run in the cold to get here, though.
Well, you ran.
Well, yeah.
Ryan,
Just like we're going to run in a couple
Ryan had
weeks,
the flick of
am I
the
right?
wrist, and he
Literally.
was just,
I was
on his
jogging
way.
at one point, and it was like 30 degrees outside.
Well, the problem is, you said you retired and you asked if I could slow down, and then I just sped up.
I'm out of shape, man. You got to give me a break here.
So anyways, Ori followed me into my session of physical therapy today. Do it every Tuesday and Friday. Get ripped? Not really. So Ori got to experience that, ask me some questions about the culture of disability.
Broad one. I like it, though.
Yeah, I mean, not my term. I just got that from Ori. So we're going to learn more about his story, his research project, and what you gathered from me and my physical therapist today. But right now, we'll jump to Ryan Martin with Will Gerard. Here you go.
This is Will Gerard, producer for Rollin Illini, speaking with Ryan Martin of the Ryan Martin Foundation. How's it going today, Ryan?
I'm well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh yeah, it's a pleasure speaking to you. We always look forward to any chance we get to speak with someone that's a prominent member of the wheelchair basketball community. One question I have for you, just to start off with this interview, is I'm aware that you've played some basketball overseas in Spain and France. You've played for the New York Rollin Knicks. You spent a little time with the Phoenix Wheelchair Suns. Could you kind of tell our listeners out there just a little bit about your background in the sport?
Yeah, so I played for a long time. I went to college at Southwest State and several years ago, and then most recently I spent a decade playing in Europe, 8 years in Spain, and 2 years in France, playing professionally. Now I play for the New York Rolling Knicks of the NWPA, and have quite a few Illini teammates.
Yeah, who are those Illini teammates that come to mind?
Yeah, so we have three of them on our roster. So we have, Pat Anderson and Steve Serio and Paul Ward. So, not only three, very accomplished athletes, but, three, household names in the sport.
Yeah, one thing that we've talked about on our show is how there are 13 college teams in the NWA. Along those lines, I know that you're trying right now to start a wheelchair basketball program at UConn. How has a school like Illinois served as a model for what you want to do?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, there's 13 programs, and it seems like each program does it differently. University of Illinois houses their program, with disabled student services. Where I went to school, Southwest, they put it with the athletic department and different things like that. So you have a lot of different options, but Illinois, I think, has set the standard for, how to incorporate academics at a really, really high level, but still creating an elite sports Paralympic pipeline. The list of Paralympians that have come out of U of I are quite a long list.
Yeah. One thing that we've kind of briefly addressed already is that you're still kind of in the process here of trying to get a program at UConn, and you actually encountered some challenges with getting it started in the fall. Can you kind of explain to our listeners out there just kind of what you have to do to set the groundwork for a program?
Yeah, so the easiest way to kind of explain creating an adaptive sports on a college campus at this point is it's kind of like doing Title IX work prior to Title IX. And for listeners who might not be familiar with Title IX was the decision that the federal court decision that you had to create equal opportunities for female athletes along as male athletes on college campuses, and so prior to that, women were given less opportunities, scholarships were less, budgets were less, total sports that a university offered. So when you look at it from like a historical scope, it's quite like trying to do Title IX work without legislation.
Yeah, kind of along those lines as well. I'm aware that you've kind of had an ongoing, you've had ongoing conversations with administrators at UConn. I know that one major obstacle, obviously, is kind of the financial element. Do you feel like there were kind of any other reasons why you weren't able to kind of get it approved for the fall, and sort of like what's your plan looking forward now?
Ultimately, with the relationship with UConn, I was a donor. I was somebody who was willing to donate equipment and help start a scholarship endowment. And so for me, the decision or the opportunity was to kind of provide my knowledge base, but it was for them to make the decision on that. At the end of the day, I'm not a UConn employee. I run my own nonprofit that deals in this adaptive sports space. And for me, and the population that we serve, having a program, at the University of Connecticut would be a great thing for the number of athletes that we service in this Northeast region to have an option to, play high-level wheelchair basketball and compete as an adaptive sports student athlete, and also get a degree that carries some weight in the, for their life after sports. And so my goal was to serve the student athletes that my foundation works with. And I think long term, I think you'll see a lot of programs start to kind of turn things around. I think, it's kind of operating in this space where we don't have any precedent, we don't have any legislation, and we don't have any sort of, legal backing to make this fight more difficult. So, I think, with the challenge of creating your own program, first you have to see what the population is on campus. And when you look at the numbers, Michael Cottingham down at the University of Houston has done a really nice job at breaking down the populations of adaptive sports athletes in the region and, the financial implications to supporting that at a college level and how kind of everybody wins at this point. And so I think, in the short term, obviously startup cash is always an issue for a university, especially with a new initiative and at a state university where things are a numbers game. But I think long term, my hope is that programs, regardless of which university is in whatever region, are able to offer more opportunities, because I know just from the scope of working with the athletes I've worked with the last 10 years that there are a lot of athletes who could go to a college program and participate, and the difference between them being able to go to a college program and compete might make them actually inclined to stick through the college process. Sports is a great vehicle for individuals with disabilities to help them achieve greater success. And I think university community, especially state universities that receive federal funds and state funds, should definitely look to create that diverse opportunity. And it's more than just, okay, yes, students can come to school here. You have to create, different kind of programming and extracurricular opportunities for students as well.
Yeah, I agree completely with what you're saying about the benefits of being able to play athletics at the college level. I think it would be awesome just to see more programs kind of develop over the next couple of years here. One question that I have for you as kind of a follow-up question here is you just mentioned how there are some student athletes that you work with who are capable of playing at the college level. Can you kind of explain to our listeners out there just the interactions you've had with like the UConn campus community right now, and in kind of on a broader sense, just how the landscape of wheelchair basketball looks out on the East Coast where you're located?
Yeah, so I think the numbers long term, when you look at the players who are playing in the region in Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, in this part of the country, I think there are enough athletes who are academically viable as student athletes to where you can create a few different programs out here. And I think it's just kind of uncharted waters. And anytime you're trying to do something new, is kind of a challenge. And so, I think it's a process, and I hope that the university kind of makes that decision, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm just a donor and would be happy to assist, because I think long term it benefits everybody involved.
Yeah, that obviously makes sense. Likewise here, one thing I kind of would like to know is, what do you feel that you've kind of learned from trying to get this program started, and is there kind of a different approach that you'd like to take, like next year per se, or what do you think the timeline realistically is until you may be able to finally get that program started and kind of off the ground?
I mean that's a great question as far as timeline-wise. I don't know if I can necessarily answer that question. I think that's a decision that they have to ultimately make on that. I think, what I've learned as somebody who's a donor and somebody who's as an advocate for these type of programs, I think I understand why there's now only 13 programs in the country, and I understand why, you don't see tremendous growth. I mean, like my last year of playing college basketball in 2002, and we had the same number of programs. Now, just some of them have changed. Like you've seen some programs develop out of the SEC conference, with Alabama, Missouri, and Auburn, which is great. And even Clemson's getting into the space of Paralympics with a soccer program there. So I think it's just a real challenge, especially, like I mentioned at the top, without some sort of landmark decision, something along the lines of Title IX to provide a guideline and provide some sort of push for universities to do this. I think it's going to be very difficult to create tremendous growth. I hope that ultimately college campuses that have students on them that express interest in this program get that opportunity, because, I mean, fundamentally, every student should have the opportunity to do, different activities. And I mean, the way the law has been written that, if said student wants to participate, the university has to make accommodations and or create programming to allow that student to participate just like their peers on a college campus. And so we haven't seen anybody really try that from a legal precedent standpoint. And, and so it would be very interesting to see, if in that space how things would be applied once a decision was rendered. Because there's laws out there and there's guidelines, but it doesn't seem like it's not necessarily enforced word to word.
Yeah, just to kind of shift our conversation a little bit, slightly in a different direction here. One thing I know about you is that you've served as you're a consultant for the NCAA on the inclusive sports model. Can you kind of explain to our listeners out there what that position entails?
Yeah, so what there's a lot of individuals who advise and kind of assist with trying to create a model of ways to duplicate programming and looking at what has worked in other places such as University of Illinois or UTA or Whitewater in different schools, and trying to create models and kind of guidelines towards growth for other college programs is kind of the best way to explain that. I think the USOC and the U.S. Paralympics is trying to look to create more opportunities, from a high performance standpoint. The data that they're always looking at is, in 2016 in the Rio Olympics, 90% of the athletes who competed for Team USA were affiliated with a college or university. When you look at things on the Paralympic scope of things, it was only 45%. So what you have is a huge discrepancy and opportunities to create a high-performance pipeline model. And so in the U.S., the way our system is structured, that has to be college levels. That's where our athletes, whether it's track and field or swimming or wheelchair basketball, whatever the case may be, that is the platform in which they can kind of make that jump from, kind of trying to be good to, really exploring a high-performance model and excelling.
Yeah, are there any schools where your foundation would like to kind of push the development of programs outside of UConn?
Yeah, so I mean, there's other schools in the region that have expressed interest in trying to create adaptive sports programs and different things like that. And like I said, our North Star, if you will, our focus is trying to create more opportunities for the athletes we serve in our region. And so, we're definitely happy to, try to assist and offer some supports on how to do things, or, help out with, a clinic to kind of create some advocacy on campus and different things like that. I think you see, especially when you follow a lot of different things on social media, you'll see a lot of universities, starting with one runoff programs or different clinics on adaptive sports to create some awareness and advocacy. I'd like to see that turn more into universities developing some programming.
Yeah, somewhat along those lines, in your experience, how much do you feel like people in your area are aware of para sports and kind of the para athletic movement in a broader sense?
I think the struggle for recognition and exposure in the Paralympic movement is something that we all deal with. Whether it's I think there's pockets of the country, especially at the universities that have Paralympic level programming or adaptive sports programming, where the awareness is higher. But I think overall you still see that Paralympic movement fighting for equality and visibility, in the sense that during the Olympic movement, or the Olympic Games, that's 2 weeks of where there's nothing on the television besides the Olympics. And, when you see the Paralympics, you have like major groups like ESPN or large media outlets barely covering it. And, you have to stream everything. So everything's kind of like secondhand information. So I think overall, since, in my years of playing, wheelchair basketball and being involved in adaptive sports, I think the awareness has grown, and I think it continues to grow, but I think there is still room for growth.
Yeah. Just to kind of wrap up this interview a little bit, one thing that you mentioned in an email last night is you talked about how you're kind of busy right now with NWBA Nationals. Can you kind of just tell our listeners out there what you have going on right now and what's planned for the next couple days?
Yeah, so I play I play for the New York Rollin Knicks, and we're going into the NWB Nationals, which is the top 16 teams of Division One. So we'll leave next Wednesday, and I'm doing this while still managing my nonprofit. We're doing some fundraising and still trying to keep my training and different things like that. So there's always something going on, but it's I'm getting the chance to do everything that I love to do, and so never can complain about that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, it was definitely a pleasure speaking with you today. It sounds like we'll have to follow up with you again at some point just because of your rich background in the sport and kind of your knowledge of what's going on the collegiate level.
All right, sounds good. Take care, and keep producing some great content. I like what you guys are doing.
All right, well, we'll try our best. This is producer Will Gerard speaking with Ryan Martin, president of the Ryan Martin Foundation. We'll be back after a short commercial break here on WPGU 107.1.
Welcome back. Rollin Illini here at WPGU 107.1 UPTV. James Boyd, Will Gerard, Ori Benatar in studio, tweeting away. Are you tweeting about me?
No.
Oh.
Dang, you said that so matter-of-factly.
Well, I'll take the show as my break from tweeting.
All right, whatever.
I got my tweets out last night about coming on.
Oh, that's right. You got the.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyways, Ryan Martin. Interesting revelations from UConn, and why they declined to adopt a wheelchair basketball program. Now, there are probably countless reasons as to why UConn said no, thank you. But one thing I noticed and realized was that there are, of course, 13 wheelchair basketball teams in the collegiate division, only one of which is out east, and that's Edinburgh. So that would require, I think, a lot of travel on UConn's part to stay on top of their schedule. And how would the administrators and their attorneys feel with students being sent all over the country? And what happens if somebody gets hurt? About buses, airplanes.
Yeah, that never really crossed my mind, but I guess that would make sense, and it might explain why UConn suggested establishing it as a club sport.
Yeah, see if it's a club.
You pay for everything.
You don't have
And
to worry
you
about
play
insurance.
against yourself.
Yes.
I mean, more or less, in this case, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
There are
they-
probably a few other teams in the area.
They didn't come out and say it I guess right away or clearly, but I think revenue definitely played a part in that decision. Considering both the men's and women's program at UConn, how much money they bring in every year. So they would definitely, I think, I don't look at the books here, but have the money to do it, but it's can they produce their own, amount of money to pay for all their expenses, which is obviously something that they're not willing to kind of explore.
I mean, well, the impression I got from Ryan Martin was that his foundation was willing to fund a lot of the
which is
initial
kinda weird.
costs, with the equipment and everything.
So I guess he was like, hey, I'll get the ball rolling. You guys just got to kind of pick up and sustain it.
Score the basket.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like, I'll hand you this ball, and you lay it up.
I mean, I think the fit would make sense. I mean, obviously there are a lot of obstacles to overcome, but like you mentioned already with the success of the basketball programs at UConn, I mean, maybe it would make sense to start a wheelchair basketball team, someone that could kind of every once in a while engage with the men's and women's programs who are both top in the country.
Well, one thing to consider and one thing we have discussed on this show is that the wheelchair basketball teams here and the wheelchair track team is not affiliated with the athletic departments. So the wheelchair track and basketball teams have their own program, and they're under the Illinois Adaptive Athletics program, coordinated by our friend Maureen Gilbert. So they don't reap the funds of the able-bodied D1 men's basketball team.
If you're out there listening, Mo, big shout out for all your efforts because, man, you do a lot.
Yes, you do quite a bit. I can't imagine I could not keep up with your schedule. But we have our own. Yikes. So, a lot of things going on.
It's like Ryan had a big realization there. It's like, oh man, like I still got stuff to do.
No, graduating is quite the daunting task. But I'm more than ready to get out of
I
here.
have so much to do before then.
Yeah.
There's no coasting on this end until graduation. It is full-blown grind mode right now. So,
Oh yeah, full steam ahead.
listening
here for
out
next
there,
month.
this is probably like one of those hours throughout the week where I get to just relax and not worry about everything else that's going on.
I am not on that boat. Sorry.
It's all right. Come May 13th, right? 13th will be.
12th.
Oh, my
Oh,
God.
I don't know about the university-wide ceremony. It depends on the weather for me. If
Not
it's
doing
cold,
that.
I will not be there.
No.
But the 13th is ours for college media, so look out
Nice.
there.
I'm
I was-
expecting an invite.
I mean, it's open, so you can definitely come.
Okay, well in that case, I'll be there. How does
And
that
how
sound,
about we
James?
just do a
It's
shoot?
open,
Let's just
but
shoot
you're
a
not
rolling
invited.
line before,
Let's just make some more content out of it.
Of course, exactly.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I'll definitely have like a cheesy, sentimental post where it'll be both of you guys in your cap and gowns and everything.
Oh my God. Oh my God. No, I was telling James.
No type of emotion from Ryan these days, man. He's just
all
stone cold.
I am brutal. No, I'm not. I was telling James earlier this week that I've been trying to string together 1 million chords from Bonn, Germany. It's Champaign-Urbana. Just like that. Quite the task. Jeez. And I was talking with Craig Spence at 2 a.m. Wednesday morning.
No pictures of this time around.
No, I'm not doing a screenshot of... Hey, now.
Or I don't know if you know this story or not, but Ryan.
This story gets told every week.
We'll talk about it off air. How does that sound?
Oh, man.
Oh, he had a interesting talk with the greatest winter Paralympian of all time. He screenshots like the conversation with her. It was a FaceTime or something, a Skype, and he screenshot it mid conversation, and the picture looks hilarious because she
God.
looks like she's sneezing.
It's on Facebook, okay?
Okay, I need to see
Jeez.
this now. I need to see
Such
this
a disgrace.
immediately.
It's great.
And
He's never gonna hear the end of it.
He's never
ever.
Nah.
top 5 moment in Rolling Line history right there. Funny moment because we have good series, but that was one that you're never gonna live that one down.
Yes. Anyways, let's get away from that before I feel ashamed of myself.
I can't help but giggle. Just go.
We back to wheelchair basketball with the Illinois team. They're kind of in an interesting spot. You have Minnesota State not too far away. Mizzou, of course, just hop, skip, and a jump away. Did you see it?
No, I didn't see it.
Good, thanks. And
Find it later.
Whitewater's not too far away. So they're kind of in a central spot between all of these different universities, so they can just drive. Of course, they take a plane, which is quite a task, to Texas to face UT Arlington. They can drive to Nebraska, and they fly to Edinburgh, but UConn does not have that luxury. So there's some logistics. But we'll see how the club team goes. I'm curious to watch that evolve in the near future. And one thing I know with Tim Nugent, the guy who started everything here, he started with a bunch of different programs from wheelchair tennis, football, I'm still trying to process that one, and dancing, and of course basketball. Now we're stuck on basketball currently, but I do feel, at least from my optimistic outlook that we could start a not me, please. We could start a program. If you're listening out there, if you have the initiative and the cohorts to start a program, I think it could happen here. But I think, as we've learned with UConn, there's just a lot there.
Yeah. Building that infrastructure up is not always easy, but, I mean, if you just look at our programs and when the support is there, obviously, you can kind of see, like, how the success has grown from that. And I don't mean that necessarily from the perspective of, obviously, we got...
And that's after, several decades.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we have
work.
great athletes that came through here at the same time, but what I mean by success, I mean also just expanding the knowledge of it. Obviously, the great athletes help with that, but the program, even when Tatiana's gone and Manu McGrory's gone, there will be others that obviously follow suit, and that's kind of how that's been going. So it's cool to see where the programs are going. You got Hall of Fame, coaches for the women's wheelchair basketball program.
Yeah,
Wheeler,
right.
so
Yeah.
when the effort is put in, there's definitely those that have the will to do it and get it done.
Yeah, and then, of course, as Adam Blakeney has mentioned to us, is that the wheelchair track program significantly expanded when names like Tatiana and Amanda McGrory came about, because everybody wants to be with them. I mean, I want to train with Tatiana. I want to train with Amanda McGrory. They'll take me to that next level. Tokyo 2020, let's do this. So there's kind of the motivation and the inspiration to come here and work with some all-stars. And UConn may not have those names right now, but maybe in a few years with the club team, get some big names, putting up big numbers. And
So, you never know who's going to be the next great one. So
could be you.
Yeah,
Could be you, Ori.
Doubtful.
All right. Well, never mind. Sorry.
Doubtful.
It's not going to be me. I don't know where I'll be. You know what? I'll go for it. Why not?
I believe in you.
Actually, no, I can't do it. So we're going to take a quick break here and come back with
Last but not least,
Ori Benatar is going to rant about me for 20 minutes. I really don't think I'm that interesting, man.
I don't think I'm going to rant.
Why are you doing a story on me? I'm really not that interesting.
It's not all about you, Ryan.
right?
What?
Goodness.
It's not? He said it was.
We've stroked this guy's ego
Today
so
was
much.
today was definitely all about you, at least for everything I recorded.
Thanks.
We got those cutaways.
Yeah, this was all audio, no visual. Sorry for your audience. They're missing out on a mustache. Darn it. Maybe I am too, because it's not there. So we'll take a quick break here on Rollin Illini, WPGU 107.1 and UPTV. Welcome back. Rollin Illini here in WPGU 107.1, UPTV, James Boyd, Ori Will Gerard, Ryan Listener, and Jason Leggett's here, all in one breath. Wow, got it. So Ori
Yes.
is here, of course, from Illini Drive, host on the Monday and Wednesday crew from 6 to 7, right here in my spot?
No, I'm in James' spot.
Okay, this is my spot.
I've been in that spot for 2 years now.
Oh.
Dang, no wonder it's always warm.
I bring my own seat for germs. So, Ori, you're doing a project on I guess just run us through your project and tell us what you have learned and what you want to get out of the project.
Right. So basically, in audio journalism here at U of I, part of the curriculum is to create a serial narrative. Now, if you don't know what that is, the best way for me to describe it is imagine a long-form journalism story in the form of like an episodic podcast. One I would recommend to listen to, it's called S-Town. It's a story about a murder in Alabama. 7 episodes, an hour each, and it's very interesting. It's very informal journalism in that you actually hear like 20 minutes of an interview uncut. So you hear the person asking the questions. It's not like a classic audio story where you cut and paste the narrative and then you put a quote in. You can actually just put 20 minutes worth of an interview if the person who's reading the narrative did the interview. So I'm doing the narrative for the episodes we're doing, and the topic we decided to choose was disabilities at U of I. and just the incredible advancement that this campus has had. And Ryan, I followed him around today, went to his physical therapy session. I thought it was really interesting, had a lot of fun at that too. But I think just
look at Ryan smiling. Hey, please do not stroke this guy's ego. Goodness, like he's over there like muscles ripped on his shit. Yeah, what's
no, he's Jack, man. He tried to make me do 100 curls. I wasn't even close. I did 30. I got to 30. But
you better man than me. I would have told him from the start. It's not possible. Next.
But I think the thing I learned about the most from the research and stuff, so we have to do 2 episodes, 10 minutes each. The first episode, we kind of focused on the history of disability and how Tim Nugent kind of developed it on this campus. We had some quotes from Leon Dash, a couple of the producers I worked with in the project, interviewed him. And then the next episode is going to focus more on student life and just the opportunities. And just more and more, I'm just realizing, my goodness, this campus is so far ahead of every campus in the entire world when it comes to making students with disabilities like feel comfortable, feel independent, and just all the great stuff you guys have here. Like, this campus is far and away the best campus for this stuff, not just, for student living and just resources, but athletics too. Illinois just dominates in every wheelchair sport, and that's evident. I mean, we were asking the people at physical therapy today, how much can Tatiana bench, or if she does any leg lifts, and I'm just thinking it's probably like 200, which is nuts. I mean, she's probably just getting jacked in there, right?
Yeah, she is. Yeah, naturally speaking, of course. So when you say, just to break it down for our audience, when you say resources for persons with disabilities, what kind of resources are we talking about?
Well, just the dorms, like Beckwith Hall, Wasaja, Nugent, just having those options, the amount of students who are willing to do, assistance for you guys, because you have to go out and hire people, and people just flock in and help you guys out. Sure, they get a salary for it, but most of the people that do it just do it, good nature of their heart. They want to help people out, which is great. And I think this campus is so accepting of that. And, it's not like, having a disability on this campus just makes you stick out completely as this outcast. You're just one of another student here. So just the gym that I saw at Drez seemed like, wow, you have a lot of stuff here for anyone who needs to come and just get fit, feel healthy, and just feel comfortable with their body. It just seems like a great place to do that. And there's just so many people helping out. So, and that's not something that I've experienced a lot because, growing up in Columbus, I grew up in a small community. I wasn't really branching out to these different endeavors. And this campus has really opened me up to, just how many different types of people there are and just the kind of struggles they have to go through. But this campus does it better than anybody else for all the stuff that's available.
What have you found to be the most common struggle for people with impairments? That's kind of my word.
I haven't really heard that many struggles. I mean, most of the people that I've talked to about it feel very independent. I think the one struggle that I feel like is common is just being able to get around easily, or just sometimes feeling like you have to stay in that confined area of your dorm or near where the residence hall is, because sometimes the weather's not good enough, or it'll be a little bit harder to wheel yourself around campus every now and again. So maybe that's a very small little struggle. Most of the people that I've talked to for this project basically said, this campus makes me feel independent. Like a student that I interviewed over spring break said he lives in an apartment. And for me, I'm just thinking that's got to be really challenging, because it's not like the apartments on this campus cater to people in wheelchairs. So, but he says, I'm totally comfortable with it. One of the guys that I live with is one of my PAs. He helps me around. And that to me is fascinating. That a campus like this, you can feel so comfortable and just live in an apartment like that, because I feel like it's probably very hard when you have all the great stuff in the dorms and things like that. You're like, okay, I'm going to go live in an apartment kind of thing. So everyone has a very positive outlook about it. That's kind of the biggest thing that I've gotten from it.
Like James has a question for me.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So how much does the PA role really kind of matter when it comes to feeling independent and I guess having a...
So how important is a PA?
Yeah, because I mean, from what I've understood from being an RA, like you pick your PA. Like it's not like they get to see a sign and you're like, oh, like this person's back. Like you You know, have to kind of like them, and that's also, I feel like a positive thing, just because since it's centered around you and what you want to do, having someone there to really support you and not like, I don't know, feel like sympathy and oh my God, like let me help, but really just okay, if he needs help, I'll do it. If not, we're just hanging out. So
Sure. Well, just to branch it out a little bit, we're talking about people with disabilities, impairments. The athletes like Tatiana, or wheelchair track racers, or basketball players, don't really have PAs,
Right.
Because
I'm
they
not.
can do almost everything. Like,
so the arms.
well, I mean that's just a matter of independence they have and strength, and that's just not something I can match up to. At 6:50 on this Friday afternoon, ask me tomorrow at this time and I'll say yes. I can beat Tatiana in a race.
I like that.
What are you doing tomorrow?
It'll be a long day, man. So, just wanted to mention that. I think primarily for you, Ori, it's been maybe people in power chairs. Is that correct?
You're in a power chair, and then another person I talk to, I think, switches off.
Okay. So, I mean, the reality is, like, we have to use personal assistants, PAs, to help us out, and they help us with our activities of daily living, ADLs, whatever that may be. Get up in the morning, go to bed, use the restroom, shower, get me breakfast, get out of here, and that's my motto, get out of here. Well, actually not. I'm nicer than that.
I was about to say, Dad.
Just get out.
Get out. Goodbye.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I think it's fair to say they do it out of the kindness of their heart, but that is driven by and backed by a need for money, and they need a job. So it's not like, hey, man, I'll help you out. You don't have to pay me a penny. Well, I mean, sure, but if I don't pay you, then it's not a job. You're volunteering, and if I don't pay you, then how can I say, I'm sorry, man, this is not working out? So as I've told Will, I'm not the nicest PA manager. Yeah, I'm not too friendly when it comes to PAs.
He's picky.
Yeah,
You have a lot of interactions with him.
yeah.
One thing I'm always curious about is, have you heard of or run into a situation where someone became a PA or just wanted to do it for the money and literally didn't care about what they were doing?
Yes.
Yes.
But the same can be said about anyone in any other job.
Well, yeah. If we're being honest here, like that's one of these sole
Oh,
reasons
sure.
I ever became an RA. It's like,
Yeah, but
leadership skills.
Wait, you were looking forward to overseeing freshmen on a daily
I'm
basis?
talking about
And really
Yeah, but being an RA,
instill
you
that
don't have to
campus
tuck
culture in
them
them?
in every night kind of thing. Being a PA is a serious thing.
Nobody tucks me in. I tuck myself in.
Yeah, I watch it.
I read my own bedtime stories. Thank you very much.
I was just saying, like, there's always yes, there's the good heart,
Yeah.
but like Ryan was kind of alluding to, it should not be, I guess, magnified to like this. Oh, they're just like such amazing people
sure.
that like do this. Like, no, it is not. I feel like it's not a bad thing to want to get paid for doing work. So,
No, I mean, that's the
place.
reality. Like, one thing I'm constantly thinking of is I want to make sure this person gets paid for their work. They spent hours with me this week, and they need and deserve to get paid. So I'm going to do whatever I can to ensure that. However, when somebody sees me and sees green, a bunch of dough, a bunch of money, and they don't care about me, they just care about give me that check and let me leave, I don't know if I want to work with you, man. Because if you don't care about me, then I don't. This is just going to be hard on our trust. Because I can't trust that you're going to carry me properly. I can't trust that you're just going to take advantage of me. And I have run into those instances, but I mean, it all works out in the wash. I've been through my fair share of PAs. Yeah, so I've had to get rid of a couple, but I mean, they're still around. They're not.
There are also PAs who you
They'll be all
have
right.
lifelong friendships with as well.
Adversity builds
Yeah.
character.
Yes, so teasing next show, and then we'll go back to you. Next week's show, we have a star PA, Hall of Fame PA, one of my PAs, coming in to talk about something similar to what Ori is researching right now. Stay tuned for that one. And we're going to talk about trust and perception. And for perception, Ori, how do you feel students perceive, an able-bodied student perceives somebody in a chair on this campus?
I don't think they see them in a negative light like people assume. I think it's fairly positive for the most part. I don't think able-bodied students here just see someone in a wheelchair and just think, okay, they're in a wheelchair. It's not like they can't do anything, because U of I just pushes this philosophy of there's still stuff that they can do. They're still functioning students, and they still can do so much on this campus. So I think it's very positive here.
Just to branch off Ori's statement, I would imagine that if anything, I think some people just feel a little uncomfortable because they haven't really, spent time talking to someone in a wheelchair. So it's just something that they're not familiar with, even though it's like ultimately like a person in a wheelchair is still a person, just like everyone else.
Yeah. And that's something that I struggled with early on, because it's not, I didn't know many people in wheelchairs, but then I met Ryan and it was like, this guy's the best. So sorry, James, I got to tell him that he's the best. Let's go.
Oh my gosh! Like he's never gonna live this down. That's all we got. That's all we got to tell you the story. Obviously off air, we'll tell him the story about the picture. This will definitely humble Ryan here.
Okay.
Taking pictures at 2 a.m. screenshotting. That'll bring him back down to earth right there. Our listeners already know.
So I even told Ori that today. I think sometimes we can approach somebody who looks different or may act a different way, and we just don't know what to say. It's not that we're judging them. We may want to create a bond, but we literally do not know what to say. Mm-hmm. Like, do I say I'm sorry that you're in a chair? I don't know, and that is something that happens. And I know when I was doing an interview for the IPC, the International Paralympic Committee, between Stacey Manila and her guide Sadie DeBond, visually impaired skiers, and Sadie did not know what to say when she started being a guide. She's like, I approach these people in chairs and these people with visual impairments, and I had nothing to say. I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to offend them, so I didn't say much at all. But now, it's just a usual conversation. See somebody with a prosthetic leg? Yeah, that's just a thing. Like we're all different. I can bench 400 pounds, Ori can't eclipse 75. So.
In what world are we in right now?
Dude,
I don't think in this room is benching 400 pounds. You're doing that, you might be playing football on a scholarship somewhere.
I probably shouldn't be here if I'm benching 400 pounds.
Yeah, if you're benching 400, you should be winning 17 gold medals.
We're compromising our journalistic integrity here.
Exactly, man.
I mean, I could do 400 in my heyday. I mean, back in high school when I was playing soccer with 10 other kids.
The lies that have been told today.
Yeah.
You don't think I can bench 400? Because you're correct, I can't.
But get
You
back
don't
to
need
your
to question
point,
my
Ryan. I think for me personally, it was definitely just asking the questions that, like the people talk about the elephant in the room. I was like, at some point you got to address it if it's, a reason for you meeting someone, or I don't know if it's a part of your relationship with somebody else. You got to talk about these things. And I think for me personally, it was just coming from a place of like just letting him know, hey, like this may come off a certain way, but this is what I'm asking. This is what I mean. Like this is what I want to understand. And that, in a sense, has kind of helped me moving forward as I continue to encounter these situations as we've, talked to many people involved in the Paralympic world. So I feel like it gets easier once you like kind of jump in the water, so to speak.
Yeah, producer man Will Gerard over here. One last quick statement I want to make before we conclude the show is one thing that I've at least I believe is I think that para-athletic sports are awesome at breaking down that barrier because it presents people the opportunity to see those with impairments do something without really focusing on their impairment as much, but seeing what they're capable of doing and sort of
Big
the
facts.
beauty of those sports.
Yeah.
Right. And most of the sports are so similar to the able-bodied counterparts.
Exactly, dude.
Especially
Ask
basketball.
Ryan.
Oh
When we
my
went
goodness.
to watch the wheelchair basketball tournament, how many times did I say like good cut or like don't get beat back door? I could actually be a fan of those games because being a reporter, sometimes you got to be stiff, at the other game. But I could actually be a fan of that game. And I was like, come on, man, you're getting beat back door, and after a while, like you start to see like that. It's the same thing. And specifically for basketball, it's just putting the ball through the hoop.
Yeah, the basic concepts of these sports are the same. Whether it's in the Winter Paralympics or in the Summer Paralympics. Yes, there are some sports that are very hard to do. Like American football, for example, is probably very hard to do for people in
Gotta
wheelchairs.
ask Tim Nugent how to
Yeah,
how to cross that
he
over.
unfortunately passed away. Obviously,
Yeah, I
but-
talked to his wife for the same course that you took that you're taking right now last semester. So maybe I'll have to dial her up and figure that out. Some hard hitting journalism here.
I mean, maybe it's just flag football. I don't know.
Definitely.
Probably not tackle football.
Two-hand
I don't
touch,
know,
maybe.
Ryan, I feel like you'd be like a mean linebacker.
Yeah,
Benching
he's
400
sick.
pounds, apparently.
Yeah,
Got the new chair. He got wheels.
You're
He's like,
benching 400. You're all pro right now. But that's definitely one thing to take away from just the project that I'm doing is that, especially when you're doing hard hitting journalism or just stuff that is very broad, like this topic that I'm doing, it's a learning experience and it makes you appreciate all the kinds of different stories that people have. And I really enjoyed just going to physical therapy with Ryan. It was a lot of fun. I saw Drez for the first time, and Drez looks amazing. It's one of the nicest buildings on campus.
On the
when you
inside.
get inside, I swear to you, like they need to do like some paint job or something because it looks so like just sad on the outside. You go inside and like
It's better than every building on the quad though that is being constructed on or doesn't have construction on, because they need paint jobs and they need interior decorating too. But this has definitely been a fun story, and I'm glad. I haven't been on here on a Friday in like a year and a half. I never come here on a Friday, and it's nice to not host for once while I'm here. So a nice little break, but I got to be back here anyway on Monday, where Will and I and Jake and Tommy will probably just talk about Illini stuff if Brent Spillane keeps hitting the ball, and definitely stay tuned to that on Monday.
Yeah, I'm glad you got to plug your show a little bit.
I have to, man. I'm just used to it. I'm not doing the readers though. I haven't done any advertising readings yet.
Are
so-
you like itching right
Will
now?
with the
Like,
most
oh my God.
savage way to end the show.
All right, 7:02. We've gone over time, 2 minutes over past the buzzer. Quite an enlightening conversation about Paralympics and their power. So we'll see you next Friday. Some more content, more track basketball, and let's toss in a fun guest. Have a nice weekend. For Rollin Illini, WPGU 1071 UPTV, Ori, James, Will, Jason, and I'm Ryan. See you next Friday.